Let's talk about my top 10 favorite One Piece characters, and we're going to start at number 10 with Bartholomew Kuma. Now, Kuma is a recent favorite of mine, and I'm just as surprised as anyone to see him in the top 10. But if you have been reading One Piece recently, so I'm caught up to chapter 1097 as of filming this video, so there are potential spoilers in my top 10 list. But recently, Kuma has become a character who I must now protect with my entire life. And it's such a juxtaposition to how I originally found Kuma when we first met him. So way back in Thriller Bark, and I believe we did meet him before that too, he was terrifying. He was presented in a way that I thought this was somebody who we must take down, someone we must defeat. And he got even more terrifying during Sabari Archipelago when he split our Straw Hat crew up for 2 years. I mean, yes, Kuma did have his reasons, and we are glad now, in retrospect, that he did that. But the times we did spend with Kuma in the beginning are just so different to how we see him now. We are getting his backstory finally in Egghead, and I am devastated by what's already happened, but also the amount of dread that I have in my soul about what's going to happen. I haven't cared about character's fate as strongly as I have about Kuma recently. If anything bad happens to him, I will not cope. I just want to protect him. He is such a good guy. And again, he seemed so emotionless the first time we met him. He didn't really seem that human, I guess. There are certain things that stem from that, of course, but like pacifistas and yada yada yada. But in terms of Kuma, how do we get a character who was initially introduced to us in such an emotionless way, and now I feel nothing but emotion? I genuinely feel like Kuma is one of the most innocent and pure beings. We don't deserve him. Did you see what he was doing to his fellow villagers when he was removing their pain but taking it on himself? It recontextualizes everything that happened in Thriller Bark between Kuma and Zoro, but he is one of the good ones and we need to protect him at all costs. At number 9 is Whitebeard, and I was initially surprised that I would put him in the top 10 for me because he is another character who I don't think we've spent a whole great deal with, but he is someone who has left such a huge impact on not just the One Piece world, but on me too as a reader. I felt safe when Whitebeard was still alive, and now I don't feel so safe anymore. The era of Whitebeard is now over, and the implications of that have just been so huge that we are still feeling them to this day. But Whitebeard himself as a character, when we first get introduced to him, he seems quite sick. It seems like he is past his prime, but gosh damn, looks can be deceiving. Even though he is huge and formidable, at that time when you see him hooked up to things and he's getting treatment, you do kind of assume that, okay, maybe it's the end of the road for Whitebeard. However, the actual end of the road for Whitebeard, I can't even get my head around what he went through in Marineford. The fact that Whitebeard took no hits from the back, but so many at the front, and he was still standing for such a long time, and he even died still standing. Wow, I've never seen a character death quite like it. And that isn't even really the reason why he's in my top 10. I feel like good parents in One Piece can be very few and far between, and Whitebeard as a sort of father figure for his crew is just so needed to show us exactly how parental love can win in the One Piece world. He will always put the love of his children above anyone else, and I know they're not like his biological children by any means, but they don't need to be, and I love the fact that Whitebeard doesn't have to be blood related to them for him to show them more love and care than anyone has ever probably shown them. And you know, especially with Ace, it is just so important for our characters to feel like they have the support and love of a parental figure. I'm not saying I got daddy issues, but Whitebeard is number 9. Number 8 is Boogie the Clown, and if you know me at all and you watched my One Piece saga from the beginning as I was going through pretty much chapter by chapter through each arc and reviewing them, you will know that I wasn't the biggest fan of Boogie the Clown when I first met him. In fact, I'm scared of clowns. So the fact that a clown has made it to number 8 on my top 10 characters is rather comedic to me, which I think is the whole point, especially when you think of clowns and how they're supposed to be funny, but also there's the terrifying side of clowns, which Boogie is a perfect balance of both. Even his devil fruit power, where he can remove his own limbs as long as his feet are on the floor, is really terrifying when you think about the detachment of like a head or an arm or a leg, and he's just like, that is really messed up, man. And you got an arm with a sword coming after you and it could kill you, and then you say Boogie when he doesn't have his torso and he's just his feet and his head and like his little hands. It's hilarious how Oda can write a character who is, you know, aesthetically scary for the people who are scared of clowns, and put your hands up if you're one of them, but to also counterbalance that with just how funny Buggy actually is. And I changed my mind about Buggy around about Impel Down because, I mean, Buggy with a ponytail, don't kid yourselves, that was hot. It's the fact that Buggy doesn't even intend on doing half the stuff that ends up happening to him, and he always seemingly comes out on top. Buggy was an underrated favourite of mine in Marineford. I love the whole vlogging experience of it, and as a vlogger myself, I can really appreciate the hard work and dedication that goes into that. I genuinely never in a million years thought Buggy would ever make my top 10 favourite characters. But like always, Buggy just keeps falling upwards, and he made it to number 8 on my top 10 favourite characters. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to leave it a like and subscribe for more One Piece. But also leave all the comments down below, let me know what your top 10 characters are and what you think of my top 10 list. And number 7 is Trafalgar Law, and this one came as a surprise to myself as well. Even though I love his humour, I love that dark humour that he has, I love his power, and I love the air of mystery that's around him. It wasn't actually until his flashback with Korra that really made me feel a whole lot more emotion for Trafalgar Law, but also to see him as one of my favourite characters. You can really see the repercussions of that entire sequence of events in Trafalgar Law and his current decisions, the way he names his pirates after Korra, and also some potential trust issues as well. I mean, I don't blame him, but the biggest reason why I love Trafalgar Law the most is his dynamic with Luffy. They could not be more opposite, and yet they work so beautifully together, and every single time they are sharing the page, I am obsessed with whatever shenanigans unfold. I am not the biggest fan of Punk Hazard, but I genuinely thought Trafalgar Law elevated that arc for me. A character who can do that to an arc that I didn't think was amazing shows the strength of Law as a character himself. And while I still need to reread One Piece, I've only read through it the once. I really wanted to make this video now before my reread so that I can look back on what my initial top 10 favourite characters were, and if they will change upon a reread. I've also got to respect a character who does this. And number 6 is Porcas de Ace. Honestly, if we had more time with Ace, he probably would have been way higher than number 6. I think a lot of people who know me and the fact that I'm wearing an Ace shirt probably thinks that Ace would have been my number 1, number 2, number 3, probably my top 5, but I don't think we did get that much time with Ace enough for me to put him above my top 5 characters right now. But I will say that Ace is the love of my life. I love Ace so much. And even though I've just mentioned, oh, maybe if he was in more, he would be higher, but I actually think him being in as much as he was probably the best thing for him, because I genuinely do believe that a character who has little screen presence or like little page presence, but can still make a big impact is that much more appealing to me. The lack of him was very alluring and made me want more. We still have so much that we could get from Ace. He died way too young. There was still so much life to give. And while I'm so gutted that both Whitebeard and Ace died in Marineford, Ace is the one who had his whole life ahead of him. And I know a lot of people don't really feel that bad for Ace when he dies. They mainly feel bad for Luffy and his reaction. But to me, Ace was everything at that moment in time. Ace is stubborn. He's deeply flawed. And that's what makes him an even better character for me. But it's the fact that he also gave up his life for his brother. And speaking as a big brother myself, I would have done the exact same thing. So in a world of pirates and dragons and samurai, the core of the One Piece characters are always so human and relatable. And I think Ace, as a big brother, and seeing how proud he was of Luffy for the majority of the time he was alive, just makes it that much more heartbreaking that he didn't get to live to see Luffy's dream become reality. But I personally did love him, and I'm sure I will never love a character the same way again. And number 5 is Nami, and I think Nami is so underrated. I don't know why I think that. I think Nami is very popular, but whenever I've done my own One Piece videos, not many people seem to give the most favourable impressions of Nami, but I genuinely think Nami is so important to the story. She's one of the very first characters that we ever meet, and she's a character I just can't imagine One Piece without. She has been so mysterious since the first time we saw her. She had a dislike for pirates, and I really wanted to know why. Her betrayal at Baratie shooketh me to the core, but then her backstory in Along Park, you can never look at Nami the same way again. She is someone who has this running gag that she is so greedy and she loves money, but she is kind and she will always be there for her friends. I love the fact that Nami is the only person who can beat up Luffy, Zoro, Sanji without consequence. It really does show how powerful she actually is. And while she isn't the strongest, while she isn't always the most well incorporated into the bigger storylines, especially since we've been in the time skip, she has this constant presence, and I'm just grateful for her for being here. She really is the best navigator in the world, and I think she deserves more credit. At number 4 is Roronoa Zoro, and I didn't really want to populate this top 10 list with Straw Hat characters. There are 2 more coming up, but that just means only 4 of the Straw Hats have made my top 10. But don't get me wrong, I love all of the Straw Hats. I just think so many of these side characters have also just been so incredible. But Roronoa Zoro is my number 4 pick. For context, the fights in One Piece are not my favorite parts of the story. I much prefer the world building and the plot and other things surrounding the fights. But I will say that every single time Zoro does engage in a fight, he has my full attention. I've loved watching him grow, and his journey of being the greatest swordsman in the world has been one of the most interesting things to watch. I really do wish we could get more of that. There was a little bit of a sliver of something in Wano that I was really hoping that we could explore more, that we didn't really touch on too much. But Zoro and his fights are always so diverse, and Zoro himself is so versatile that I never know what to expect going into a fight with Zoro. His initial loss at Baratie against Mihawk gave us such an early look at how Zoro needed to get to that level, but to also surpass that level at Mihawk. In his declaration to Luffy during Baratie, but also his dedication to his captain, has been one of the best things I've seen in One Piece. His friendship with Luffy when they reunited at Wano was just so amazing. He can really put the biggest smile on my face. We also have a shared love of liquor, so I don't know if that also helps with the ranking. And Zoro having a really bad sense of direction never gets boring, and it leads to some fantastic hijinks with him that I am in love with him. Actually, one of the biggest reasons why I love Zoro as well is from the Water 7 and Enies Lobby arc. After the Luffy and Usopp fallout, Zoro really stepped up to the plate to tell Luffy exactly what he needed to hear. And even then, when he said, we can't let Usopp back on the crew unless the first thing that comes out of his mouth is an apology, and he still goes along with not being able to hear Usopp say all of these things before his apology. Zoro doesn't always show his vulnerability, but when he is, it's really impactful. And let's not forget his incredible dynamic with Chopper. I love his big brother energy. And number 3 is Bentham, or Mr. 2 Bon Clay. I miss him. I really do. I loved the way that he just immediately became friends with Luffy and the gang in his first introduction. It was so confusing because he just like appeared out of nowhere. We get into Alabasta and he's a villain and he's fighting Sanji and he is so confusing, don't get me wrong. But ever since Impel Down was when I was like, gosh, damn, I love this guy. After Luffy lost to Magellan and Iva was trying to save his life, the way that Bon Clay just got everyone to chant for Luffy, and he was chanting for Luffy, and he was trying to get Luffy to come out through the other side. And bear in mind, they haven't really been together all that long. I mean, yes, he did sacrifice himself at Alabasta, which was a huge moment as well, but they reunited and Impelled Down, and Bon Clay just goes out of his way to save Luffy, to help Luffy. It is extremely charming and just so wholesome and heartwarming. I was so emotional when we said goodbye to Bon Clay at the end of Impel Down. Again, sacrificing himself so that Luffy could escape. He is just the best. His personality is infectious. He is just a bright spot in the One Piece world. And number 2 is Nico Robin. She is again someone who we met in totally different kinds of circumstances under an illusion of being Miss All Sunday, supposedly a villain against us, but actually her actions in Alabasta were so conflicting. And then she joins the Straw Hat crew and I'm like, can't she get any more interesting? And then we get her backstory. We get O'Hara, we get Soul, we get everything that happened to her that labeled her a demon child. And I don't think we've had, in my personal opinion, a backstory that's been so heart-wrenchingly devastating as the annihilation of O'Hara, but the reunion with her mother, only to be taken away from her again, adds all of that depth that leads to Robin declaring that she wants to live. There is so many layers to Robin, and we didn't get any of that handed to us from the beginning. Oda very cleverly gave us little bits of information about Robin, presenting her in a certain different way. We think she's betrayed us in Water 7 and she's left the Straw Hats and all of this, but actually there's just so much more to her. And I find her passion and drive to find out more about the Void Century, her ability to read the poneglyphs, her attachment to history and trying to understand and study it is something that is the most important thing to me in One Piece. I do want to know what the One Piece is, don't get me wrong, but the Void Century, Robin's pursuit of knowledge and truth, that is what captivates me the most. And like Trafalgar Law, I love Robin's dark humor. She can be so hilarious, so unintentionally hilarious. I really do think that she's really fit in well with Straw Hats despite being such an outlier in personality types. And seeing her come to love and defend her friends is one of the most beautiful things I've seen unravel in One Piece. When Sanji asks her for help in Wano, that is one of my favourite moments, not just of Robin but also of Sanji, for instance, because it really showed that level of trust. And to see someone who is as strong as Sanji asking for help from Robin is, it's just so heartwarming and amazing, and Robin steps up to the plate. I want her to be number one, I do, but unfortunately she's not. My number one is, and you're gonna think this is so boring, but it's Luffy. I love Luffy so, so much. Luffy, this might sound weird to say, grounds me. You know what I mean? It's like I'm becoming an adult. I'm becoming such a boring adult. But Luffy represents so much childhood wonder and imagination that he is keeping me from becoming such a boring ass adult. And I love the fact that he's pulling me back into my childhood. He's making me feel nostalgic for a series of One Piece that I didn't have when I was younger. I've only been a One Piece fan for just over a year. So the feeling that Luffy imbues in me is enough of a reason to make him one of the best characters I've ever read in fiction. In general, you know, he's my number one of everything. I love the way that he can encourage people to pursue their dreams. I love how he defends other people's dreams so much. He inspires me to continue pursuing my dreams and also to examine friendships and going on adventures, and he is just everything that I think we should be looking up to. I don't think any other person but Luffy could lead One Piece, and not just because of plot reasons, but I really do believe that Oda has brought us a main character who isn't just a character, he is so much more than that. He is the literal embodiment of hope, inspiration, dreams, freedom. He transcends so much to be the symbol that he is right now. I genuinely don't think anybody could ever top Luffy. He puts his life on the line constantly for people he doesn't even know. He will always stand up for what is right, and I genuinely feel like people in real life can really learn so much from him. Myself included, I still have so much that I can take from Luffy, and I will never get tired of Luffy saying that he is going to become king of the pirates. He makes me believe in him, but also makes me believe that anything can happen. He makes me believe in the reality of imagination. Don't forget to leave all the comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the top 10 list, and also share with me your top 10 list also. If you want some exclusive One Piece live shows and new chapter readings every single time a new chapter comes out, I do have a channel membership that you can join. But don't forget to leave this video a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye!